Shara sare sadat unehagua. Kam charame sukterani hisirat dilele hinestua. Jamur me suktarane asusana hastai saruset ile hekturtik teru an. Jano sarmakayat ursurut unahugua. Ham sharo saratik tel hurnesut mehkierut nehisane ishtawa. Men sto saruma sarat al haktarak ekniarut naha. Shana saraneak tu kurat ti surnestu kam shana sedet sahele uktarumat. Ma darat yasu han ishterne na warati salahik turmat hua. Sharu masiratat ila harana kayak hua. Hum saru mashtera sarati hat ila suktarane hich chanik deru ut mehasane utane isura. Hen shuraset mahi kieru lar inero saktawa ad. An shara saktira na hasum jan urmat ilarat nisakaya. Han stam sartikla urat na asiaru stat iwa. Hamushtaru sat ile saktira neheshon. Kamura besursteine susun. Jamye.
So for me, the light language began signing through my hands.
Oh, okay, like a sign language.
Right.
Oh, wow.
I was working on clients. I had an axiotonal alignment. And after that, when I was working on clients, my hands would start to move around. And so I just watched it. You know, it was silent. Their eyes were closed. It was lovely. And that was how it began for me. And that was the easy part, because when the sound wanted to start coming out, I was really reticent with that at first. But of course, now I'm glad I got over that hurdle.
Nice. So does each hand movement have a word or a sentence to it?
So with hand movement, and this could apply to something verbal, you know, spoken or sung as well, but especially with the hand movements, what I notice is there are times where my hands are actually writing light language in the energy field. So it would be the same as if it was on paper, but it's just in the air. It's in a three-dimensional plane there. And then there are other times where my hands are just moving energy. They're responding to it. And so sometimes it'll go into like a mudra.
Yeah.
Other times it might go over a chakra, or it might just hold and stabilize some energy that's flowing. But the hands are kind of a simultaneous language that's going on. Something's coming out of my mouth. And that's just the part that's either verbal, you know, audible or visible, because there are times where I'm seeing language coming out of my eyes. Sometimes I've seen it coming out of my elbow or out of my throat. Sometimes I'm hearing or seeing languages that I'm not, you know, they're not audible or visible.
Do you see, like, when people write light language in the I've seen some other channelers write light language, and it looks almost like an alien writing or something.
It does. There's so many different dialects. You know, some of it looks similar to some things that we might know, like kanji or Sanskrit. Some of it looks very different. Some of it looks more symbolic.
And these are the symbols you see when you're transmitting this? Do you see those actual symbols? Or
sometimes I'll see symbols, yes.
Okay.
And it can vary. It can be different languages, and sometimes they're clear to me, and sometimes they're just moving too fast. And
Right.
this was so many of them. It's not like I was seeing individual glyphs or anything like that, but it was there.
And there was stuff. Was it coming out your elbow today?
No, it wasn't.
Right.
That was like a whole immersion. It was really interesting, almost like an explosion of light
Wow.
in a positive sense.
Right. Well, it
really
looked
beautiful.
beautiful. It sounded awesome. So thank you for sharing. You said yesterday in the past you channeled many different types of entities, but today I think we're going to focus on Arion.
Mm-hmm.
Just briefly before we go in there, and I'll ask them kind of the same thing, but how did that come about, and who are they? I guess in a sense, I'll ask them who they are, but how did you start the process of channeling?
So I had been channeling for many years, and it was often different energies that were coming through. And I think it was like November of 2012, Arion came to me and said, "We'd like for you to channel us directly."
Mm-hmm.
And because our information can be helpful to humanity at this time. And they even said, humanity's on a trajectory, they're on a timeline that is now, our information can be more helpful. And I think getting so close to that 12/12 was, at that time, we were ready for a deeper connection in with our heritage that had always been there, but we were just ready to bring it out more. And they like getting into the details of the mental and emotional. So they brought through a beautiful channeling at that time, and I was alone by myself in a room, and it was such a loving energy, and I recognized that energy that, of course, I was willing to do that. It's been really wonderful channeling them. At that time, I said yes, but it's not like I, ran. I'm like, okay, well, I'm doing one this weekend.
Right.
It just was getting settled into other things. And I connected with a friend of mine who I hadn't told any of that to, because I had seen that they were connecting with me, and they were, every couple of weeks I would kind of tune into their energy, and they were actually forming their name. And they had identified themselves as the Lyran Council of Time. And so I wasn't asking for a name. I figured that's how they wanted to be known. But I kept seeing the letter A, and I knew they were creating a name.
Okay.
But I couldn't see the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was chatting with a friend, and he's very good at getting names like that. We've had a lot of synchronicities in that way. And I hadn't told him anything about that. And he said, I can see these energies that are connected with you. I'm like, yeah. They're forming a name. Can you get their name? And he's like, no, I can't see their name, but I'm seeing the letter A. And I'm like, yes, that's all I'm getting
That's
too.
what you're getting, yeah.
So a few weeks later, they came to me and they said, here's the name we want to use. It's Arion. And they showed it to me spelled out.
Okay.
And I complained.
Right. Why did you complain?
I'm a healthy skeptic. So, does that really have to be the name? You know, what if some people think it's Aryan and they have negative connotations with that? And they're like, no, that's the name. They just left it at that. And so they were explaining to me at that time that the reason they wanted that name, the AR, it represents air energy, like the mental, the subtle energy. They deal a lot with the mental and emotional. And then Eon, that makes sense.
Right.
Time,
yeah.
So they left it at that. And then about a couple of weeks, a month later, they came back, and all they said was, now spell it backwards. So Areon spelled backwards spells no era. So timelessness.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, that's perfect.
There you go, yeah.
And I was glad they let that time lapse. But I was glad they let that time lapse, because it made it more important to me. Like, sometimes we feel like we want everything right now, but sometimes this beautiful physical experience, when things happen over phases in time, that was even more special. So I really liked getting to know them in that way.
Cool. Well, look forward to talking to them.
Yes.
And we can bring them through.
Yes.
Hello, Ariane.
Blessed be.
I have a few questions today. I've been spending a lot of time with Jamye and getting to know her and getting to know you guys through her. And it's great to communicate in this way, in this fashion. First off, I wanted to ask, from Ariane's perspective, what is time?
Time is an important aspect of the experience that you are having. From your density, you experience the linearity of time. So your past is complete, your present is now, and your future has not yet occurred. We do not like to start by saying time does not exist, because the experience of it exists in this reality, and when you understand that deeply, then you can integrate into the next level of truth or understanding of time. Time is a function of your density. Because movement is constant, you experience linear time because of the speed at which you move and experience. So your biomechanism helps you to linearize time. It helps you to linearize experience. And time is the effect of the speed of your movement. When you observe the things that are around you, you see some that move fast and others that move so slow, you would consider that no movement at all. The rocks around you, you do not see them move in the same way that you move. And so there is a definition that separates them from your experience because the pace is different. The density is slower. Time is the effect of the pace of that movement. So as you understand the experience that you are having slows time into its linear form, you can then utilize the subtle aspect of it much more clearly. So we begin to teach this in ways that help you understand the linear aspect applies, and you can start to add other layers of application. So where we usually begin is the understanding that within your present moment, your past exists now. All of the experiences that you have had in your life, all of the experiences that you have observed from others, all of the experiences through the genetics of your DNA, all of that past is in your present moment because it has created the defined experience that you are having. Within that present moment, your future already exists now because the choices, the actions, the inactions, all that you are experiencing in your present is aligning you with future potentials. So time is part of you. It is part of this density. And as the density changes, the rules of time change as well. But it is for you to change within and release the resistance so that you can flow more easily with the non-resistant, non-linear aspects of the timeless nature that you are.
Beautiful. Thank you. So I was thinking as you were describing time, and in past episodes, I've covered the different density levels, rocks and plants sort of being at a first density, second density, and third density. And different channelers have slightly different reference points or charts that they use, but we all have this word density and density levels. Would time, it seems that time is associated with these density levels.
It is.
Okay.
We like to differentiate between how you verbalize dimensions and how you verbalize densities.
Sure.
Dimensions are a set of rules that are helpful only because of your perspective. Density considers the overall resonance and interaction of those dimensional rules. So when you consider your density, you are creating an overview of how the interaction occurs. Your third density, which is where humanity has been residing and resonating for a very long time, your third density helps slow you into enough separation that you see the movement through time, you experience the movement through time because it's fast enough to mark those time frames.
Right.
But it's slow enough that you can get into the details. Your fourth density, where you are crossing over and merging back and forth and blinking into and out of, depending on the individuals, their individual perspectives. Your fourth density is still separate in physical form. It is still slow enough that the effects of time are still there. But there is a resonance that is more consciously connected with the subtle rules of magnetism and allowing the overall resonance to determine rather than just control. When you are shifting into that fourth density, you are starting to interact with time in a different way. And this is the connection between your Mayan calendar. There are many other indigenous and ancient cultures that marked these points, that understood the overall cycle, the cycles that are so long that humanity could not easily see them moving. So your fourth density, you begin to understand life from more connection. You begin to see some of those longer cycles. You begin to feel some of those differences in movement, where the duality of opposites is more connected into one experience. I feel like I'm moving fast and I feel like I'm moving slow. I feel like I'm in time and I feel my timeless nature. Your fourth density begins to connect. And that is the exciting point that humanity is at now, where they start to experience more connection. They start to experience more impact from their overall resonance, because the expansion that is occurring is creating more connection within. So the intuitive signals are starting to open up. The deeper thread of connection is starting to become more apparent, or the lack thereof. So the opposites are either felt as more connected, or they are felt as more drastic. Part of the aspect of that connection creates a sense of a stronger separation or more polarization. And it is that aspect that helps give the perspective of new form. You see this in your cellular structure as it separates in order to create new form. And this is the process that humanity is now experiencing. Where is there separation? Where is there opportunity for connection? Because that is what separation shows, is how a deeper or a stronger connection can be created. There is still physicality within that fourth density. So for some, the experiences are not drastic enough to sustain the believing. And this is why it is so important for the inner experience, the subtle bridge, the thoughts and the emotions, to become much clearer, so that each being is connecting within the self and with the invisible that is not necessarily already formed. And that part that you are experiencing now, some of that comes with understanding time more deeply, relaxing into the resistance that resists the future potentials, or resists the present moment, or holds tension from the past. Part of that is the strengthening of the self, so that what is going on around and seems to be more separation or polarization does not distort the being. So the density that you are moving into will still have physical separation, and yet more of a connection within the self and within the subtle realm.
It seems that, well, first off, let me ask, what density does this Aryan consciousness that I'm speaking to now reside in?
We have moved beyond density, and we bridge back and forth between non-density, non-physicality, and enough density to be able to communicate. The Lyran connection with this, there is Lyran aspects that have moved beyond density. So from your numerical system, you would consider us seventh density.
Okay.
Some would call us different densities or might use different numbers.
Right.
Yet from our standpoint, we are no longer in physical form. And even our densest nature does not hold physical separation. That may not be true for all Lyran experiences, but the energetics that you are speaking with now, that is our resonance.
I see. Other episodes it said that Earth is a seventh density consciousness. Would that be a little bit different than Earth itself? The collective consciousness of Earth is a seventh density being. Is that in the realms, or?
The consciousness of Earth, yes.
Okay, I see. So a similar consciousness then to our planet, and I guess the way I see that is, all, not just humanity, but all of the different consciousnesses that reside on Earth, the plants, the animals, the rocks, all the unseen realms and dimensions that we don't necessarily even see or all of us come in contact with. All of that combined together in this grand consciousness called Earth. And so it's on that scale that we're talking to with the Lyrans, or bigger.
It is as if there are layers within layers. And this is where the words sometimes become difficult, because it is helpful to understand it from your perspective, and then add another layer of truth, another layer of truth, another layer of truth.
Right.
There are aspects of consciousness that one could almost always consider the highest density available. It is not always true. There are aspects of consciousness that will sustain more of a density level of separation. And that is part of moving through and integrating the overall consciousness experience, so that the ultimate creation or resolution has a purer form. Otherwise, it keeps reforming itself until there is that clarity that can no longer be refined.
Oh, okay.
So the consciousness of Earth holds many levels. And there are levels that can communicate or can sustain physical form that integrate but would be considered separate from your perspective. And there is that separation, there is that depth of density, and there is that higher density or lack of density as well. They all exist. It is just like the nature of time. You experience the separation of it, but it is all existing at once as well.
And to expand, well, I guess what part of this global ascension, this global transformation that's happening on the planet right now, is us, humanity, awakening to these unseen realms, these subtle things that we're just talking about, and to do that, it seems. This cancellation of the polarity, this knowing that there's the other side of the coin, and operating from a place of non-polarity, or I call it Trinity consciousness, the third choice. I say a lot in my own studies, my own language, and is that what's happening here with this ascension? Could you talk about the ascension a little bit?
Yes.
In your words.
Ascension is a very natural process. It is just like plants that grow through seasons, or humans that grow from child into adult. It is a very natural process. And what you are experiencing now is where the expansion of your understanding of the subtle realms is becoming more conscious to you. You've always been interacting with them, but the resonance was not strong enough to sustain the focus or the clarity of connection within. This is why it is important to observe the subtle bridge, the thoughts and the emotions, so that you are tuning in to the inner realm, the subtle aspect of self, that communication bridge between your physical nature and your non-physical nature. So what humanity is experiencing now is an expansion into more of that conscious connection with the subtle realm. So it is a matter of then tuning into the self, creating more ease and flow and strength within, more personal empowerment, more flow of love, but from that strength that understands the conditions of the physical realm, because your unconditional nature is your subtle realm. It is your inner realm. That is where you heal, you find forgiveness, you find new perspective of connection, you nurture the self into more wholeness and strength. That then creates a different resonance that is interacting from physical to non-physical in a more empowered, conscious, and direct way. It often begins by focusing on creating with your thoughts and emotions, and this is healthy understanding. And then it becomes much more of a depth of learning to navigate the inner realms, whether it seems like it's a positive or if it seems like it's a negative. One is choosing, as you say, the third direction, the third way, the third option, which is to connect those opposites and allow them to become one coin within the self. We often use the example of your atomic model. Within the nucleus of an atom, you know there is a positively charged proton, there is a neutral charged neutron. That creates that core within. And if it does not have that balance, it is unstable. It can still create form in this physical realm, but it creates unstable form. But when that is balanced, the positivity and the neutrality, this is the metaphor of the self, when you are equal in your positivity and equal in your neutrality, your relaxed, your openness, your patience, your willingness to experience. When those are equal, that is a stable core. And then that negatively charged electron is drawn to that, which would seem like opposite, but it is the wholeness. It is the two sides of the coin that creates new form. And this is within all that you experience. This metaphor, this pattern of the atomic model. The 99% space, 1% matter, that is your density as well. You are 1% physical matter. You are 99% invisible, subtle, non-linear. And as you start to tune more in to the invisible, whether it is the thoughts and emotions first, it is the potentials of the future. When you start to tune into that more, you begin blending the 1% form and the 99% invisible. You start utilizing that vast, subtle, invisible engine that forms this world. And that is what your ascension process is. You are aligning the physical self more with that 99% invisible aspect of self. So what then is that aspect of self? Well, you have many names for this. Some call it God, some call it oneness, some call it unity, some call it consciousness, some call it life. It is the connective force of life. Well, from your emotional standpoint, what connects? You could say it's love. In many different aspects. That might be friendship. It might be family. It might be a shared passion. But it is a connective force. It might even be a shared anger. Because that opposite is part of that whole coin. So if you called that coin love, on one side that love may feel like bliss. On the other side of that coin, that love may feel like loss. But those are one coin. It's all love. It's all connected. And that is what you are learning. You are learning to have the strength to navigate the positives, and you are learning to have the strength to navigate the negatives. Instead of having resistance to either one of those, you are learning to have the strength to navigate the connection of both of those. So first, as one opens, they often pursue that through that aspect of love. Well, I want more positivity. I want more love. I want more bliss. So I will give more love. And this is effective. It is part of it. But often what starts to happen is they find that that resonance cannot be sustained. And that also is perfect. It is that negative electron creating more wholeness that seems like there must be a problem. I've lost that flow of love. But that is life creating more wholeness within. That is life helping you to create new form. So that what seems like a negative is actually a completion. It's the other side of that coin. And then when the strength is developed to navigate through that flow, it seems as if there is less negativity. In essence, that is true. In some ways, there is a layer of truth that negativity is still occurring. It is that it is not resonant with the being, or the things that might have felt more negative to them before now are part of that strength that says, this is just completion. This is just a new opportunity for form.
Mm-hmm.
So the process of ascension that you are going through, in many ways, is a mental and emotional one first, and then it becomes a physical one.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not to say that your physicality will disappear. That is not the phase of ascension that you are in. You are in a phase of integration where the separation will still be there with more connection consciously.
Mm-hmm. And that's fourth density.
That is fourth density.
So it seems, I like to say everything is a two-way pump. So it has to go in and come out in order to flow, to neutralize, right? The two sides of the coin. Or in the case, the analogy you just said, to give is to receive, and vice versa. You can't overly give, otherwise you deplete your own source.
Yes.
So I wanted to go back earlier. You mentioned that the Lyran collective had, correct me if I'm wrong, but had sort of already done all of the separation that it could do, and then it finally did, and that's how it was able to ascend.
Yes.
Is that what we're doing in our sense? We were trying all the hats on?
It is what you are doing.
Okay.
And there are aspects of each of you that have experienced this process in different ways. There are aspects of the self that are more connected.
Mm-hmm.
There are aspects of the self that may perhaps be less connected.
Mm-hmm.
And the process that you are moving through over a long frame of time from your perspective
Mm-hmm.
is the integration of those opposites. The metaphor of what we experience is the color white,
Mm-hmm.
the all-inclusive, the holding all of it, that the separate color rays have already reintegrated.
Mm.
And this process is what humanity is moving through in somewhat individual ways, because that is always the case,
Right.
and in a collective way as well.
So we're going back into the prism in a way. If you use the prism analogy, that everybody knows the Pink Floyd album cover,
Yes.
where the light comes through and then it separates into the rainbow, we're sort of going back in.
Yes. Yes, and from that perspective of the individuality, it is that reintegration back into the oneness that occurs over time, because from your density, it is the uniqueness, it is the separation that creates that deeper understanding or that deeper clarity of the reintegration. But it is a long process from your perspective.
Sure. In the Lyran, I'm sure time is measured in a much different manner, rotations of planets around different celestial bodies. Is there a way to compare in Earth years the time it took for the Lyrans to go through this density shift? Billions of years?
Billions.
Okay. Billion, yeah, at the same time. Billions of years, yeah.
From the perspective of pain, that feels like a long time.
Yeah, it's perspective of pain. Yeah, I guess it could be a lot of births, a lot of deaths, a lot of wars and battles, and I guess, life itself is still the Lyran journey. Is Earth just an aspect of that?
It is an aspect of that. So
Okay.
we would say that the Lyran journey occurs on many densities,
Okay.
because what you are experiencing, what humanity is experiencing, is very much a Lyran journey.
Mm.
It is not only a Lyran journey, but it is part of the Lyran journey. So there is an aspect of the Lyran energy that is still at a different density. This is why we began earlier by saying the density that you are speaking to now is not the totality of the Lyran experience.
Right. It's the seventh density version, you know,
Yes.
this point in time, and we're kind of maybe a side story or a chapter in that.
An aspect within
aspect.
the entire journey.
Right.
A chapter within the entire book.
Right. And a subchapter of a subchapter. If you look at all the other, you know, we have the lineages, I guess, and this is in other works we get into, but, you know, the Syrian, there's all these different star system, Palladians, and different chapters, I suppose, that we can use to reference our own chapter.
Yes, like the line of a family.
Yeah, family line. It's a beautiful thing, and I guess this is how we say we learn from our mistakes, but we also repeat history a lot too. How do we do it different, or what is there a should we even try? Is it just going to unfold in its own way?
Yes and no.
Okay.
It is the whole coin, yet the density that you are experiencing is about the individual. And we would say to you that the key is to look within. The key is to change your journey. And all else out there ripens on its own. You are 99% invisible. You are 99% connected. You are vast. It is for the individual to find that power within. Rather than controlling the external, when you shift the internal, that is what transforms the entire thing much faster. Much of your communication, though it is not conscious, much of your communication, 99% of it, is occurring on an unconscious or a subtle level. As you allow the human self to tune more into the greater self, you are beginning to utilize that vast engine that builds worlds. And so it is helpful to observe the things that are going on around you, and it is most helpful to interact from this physicality. Take the risks of interaction. Whether they feel like they're painful or scary, take the risks of interaction, because this entire life, all of humanity, the rocks, the flowers, the animals, Gaia, the earth, the things that you have not even named yet, they want to receive your energy. Just as humanity wants to receive love and connection from others, though some may protest. Take the risks of interaction, nurture the self within, because that is where the keys of your evolution reside. All of this physicality, often you take it much too seriously. It is a beautiful expression, and at times it is a very painful expression. But when you tune into the self and honor and love the self, you cannot help but observe all of life through that lens. And as you create that wholeness within, you start to connect more with the wholeness that you are, that 99% invisible. And then the information flow that is interacting, even on the physical level, is much greater. People may not be conscious of it, but that is when the impact, because you're using that vast engine, becomes greater. It is all the personal healing, the personal empowerment, the strength within to be willing to love the self, to be willing to love when it's not easy. That is the key to your change, your evolution, your ascension. It's a natural process.
Wow. So in closing, how do we integrate those people who still choose in separation? We still have wars on this planet. We still have a lot of polarity. I know you said earlier, do the internal work. So if we are internally focusing on that, but yet we're faced in living on this one planet together with people who still choose the path of polarization, how does one walk that line?
It is very important to get your energy into this world. This is why we speak so much of empowerment, because when a being has the strength of knowing the self so deeply that they will take risks, not because of the outcome, but because of the passionate flow. When you follow those, you are flowing your energy into this realm. Interact with those that may seem opposite, or interact in the ways that your passion flows. Bring your energy to the causes, the focuses, the artistic creations, the businesses that you are passionate about. That is what this world needs. That's what helps it move faster. It needs the individuals interacting. Often, they are the sensitive ones. They are the compassionate ones. They are the ones that when they know that wars are being fought, not to protect, but to sustain greed, or to overtake and hold power, that it makes them shrink back and contract from the pain of that, because they are sensitive. They want that compassion to flow. They want others to be enjoying and feel that safety and creativity as well. That sensitivity is a gift, and yet it can be a painful burden at times. But it is for the compassionate ones to strengthen enough that they can handle the flow of the emotions and let that pain flow so that it can transform into the strength that inspires them into new choice. So whether it is a prayer for one, or a protest for another, or a vote for another, or an action for another of giving aid, get your energy into this world. When the compassionate ones start leading, that is when the world changes. Let yourself feel the pain of that separation, and then let yourself know more deeply the determination of creating connection in the ways that are passion flowing through you. It is important, and it comes in all kinds of ways. But as you follow those passions, you find that life starts giving you the opportunities to be able to let your passion flow and be supported in this realm. It is not always easy. It does not always come with the immediate gratification. But the sustaining of the self, when one is strong, they don't flow that passion just for the outcome. They flow it because passion must flow. That is how you deal with observing the pain around you. It is a reality, but it's not the whole story. It is just one side of that coin. And on the other side of that coin is someone discovering within their courage, or their ability to sustain or help others. It is what creates more connection, because that polarization seems stronger at first. It is not easy to do, but that is the work, and it is why each being becoming stronger is a vital aspect of your ascension. It is not just blissful thoughts and blissful feelings. It is the willingness to sustain that container of love, whether it seems like a moment of joy or it seems like a moment of pain. The container of love is strong. That positivity and that neutrality continue to find that balance, even though when that electron first comes into the resonance, it begins to shift it, and that feels uncomfortable. But let that be the sense of completion that creates more of a determination to hold the balance of positivity and neutrality. When you see pain, also see the power that is within every being that that being may not yet know. And sometimes they learn it through someone else reaching out a hand and helping to pull them through. And sometimes they learn it when there is no hand to pull them, and they must find that strength within. You do not need to figure out which one is correct. You just need to follow your passionate flow. Interact in ways that may seem a little uncomfortable at first, but they feel like a compelling that is drawing you forward into more completion. This is a powerful time for humanity. It is an exciting and a beautiful time. And yet that polarization that is created as that cellular division happens for new form to occur can either shut one down permanently, or it can be the moment in time that creates a blending of the strength of the past and a connection of the potentials of the future in your now, in your container. There is great power within you, within every being. It is just blossoming forth in a different season, a different moment for each.
So it's everybody, even though when these uncomfortable times, polarity, wars, especially for you were saying the sensitive ones, even though these things happen, it sounds like we still need to come out of our closets and interact, integrate, take action, and be, like you said, be ourselves and follow our passions.
Yes.
Even in those times.
Even in those times.
Mm-hmm.
It is not the easy work.
Right.
But it is part of the work.
It is part of the work. It's, got to get out of that shell.
Yes.
And
yes. You begin to find there is less separation, even in ideologies. But you are not meant to interact with every human. You are not meant to convince them of your way is the right way. You are just meant to flow your energy into your life, your realm, your passions, and it begins to change. But then you must look for the clues of change. And in the times where it seems as if that is not enough, you must catalog that in that beautiful linear mind and retouch that time, that potential to help sustain that neutrality and that positivity within you. Honoring this container, this sacred vessel that you are, sometimes means reaching out and receiving and connecting. And sometimes honoring this sacred vessel means saying no, or holding a boundary, or choosing not to interact. But you want to watch that balance of, is it my fear that is holding me back? Am I expressing into my life? Am I over-controlling in my life? And that internal discernment will speak to you of the precious moments that you are creating that are accessing new potentials for humanity. It is the peace within that creates the peace in the external realm. But do not expect every moment to be peaceful. And do not blame the self when you are not having that peaceful moment. Nurture the self. Nurture, just as you would a child that you are strengthening for the future. Nurture the self so that you can sustain that container of love, whether it is a moment of tears or it is a moment of joy.
Beautiful. Wow. Well, thank you. Some good, powerful medicine for those watching, and for those who are just coming into this information, learning their passions, learning how to integrate this ascension, this process.
It is natural.
Yeah.
You cannot get it wrong.
Mm.
Life is fail-safe towards love. It may take time to manifest, but life is fail-safe towards love. Love is that connective energy. Life is connected. Life returns to love. We often end our channelings with information from our expression.
Mm.
We say Isha, Ema, Eta, which helps to understand some of that connection, because it is easy from a linear perspective to assume that something is better or worse. And part of what is written into the information of that phrase is that you are so valuable and cherished by all of life. You are perfect in this expression. We receive you. We are you. We love you. We are forever changed from the interaction with you. Your awareness is so powerful that it affects all life. All life embraces that. You cannot get it wrong. You are love. From this density, that separation can feel like pain. It can feel like it's not love, but you are love. Isha, Ema, Eta.
Isha, Ama, Eta. To you.
We receive.
Thank you. How was that?
Nice. Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. Are you present when this is happening? So you're
I
you're pretty much there.
I am, yeah. So I'm listening to it.
Mhm.
It is like just listening. And it's very different for me to channel light language versus channeling in English.
Sure.
When I'm channeling in English, I have to concentrate's not the right word. I actually can't concentrate.
Sure. Yeah.
If I pay attention too much and they say something, I'm like, oh, that reminds me of this, I'll actually pull the channel off.
Oh.
So I can listen, but I can't actively engage my mind.
Right.
When I channel light language, it feels completely different to me because my mind is getting so much information and I'm paying attention to so much data
Right.
that it's like a completely different bandwidth.
Cool. So
They're both
you're,
fun.
You're a multi-dimensional channeler.
Yes.
On many levels, right? Light language, English.
Yes.
Sometimes you've said other languages as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
So very cool. Well, thank you. This has been an awesome experience.
It's been so much fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing through the wisdom, and you continue to bring through this wisdom for many to enjoy and to receive and integrate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You are as well.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Awesome.